49ers 41, Seahawks 23, and we just saw the Jacksonville Jaguars come from down 27 to beat the Chargers 31-30. Third largest playoff comeback in NFL history. So the Chargers are eliminated. I was writing during most of that game. I'm excited to see the tape to see what the hell happened to the Chargers. I look up, TV's on, and Joey Bosa's slamming his helmet down into the ground, not just once, but twice. And I was like, I didn't see the play until after. And I was like, oh, he must have gotten held, and there must have been no call. And, of course, Joey Bosa got held, and there was no call. So, unbelievable. We look at this day of football, and it was truly, truly special. Between the 49ers rip-roaring second half against the Seattle Seahawks and the comeback that sets the table for Sunday and then Monday night. And you know what? The best part about being a 49ers fan, those of you who are 49ers fans, I don't know, maybe some Seahawks fans are watching too, but when you win that first playoff game on a Saturday, you get to chill for the rest of the weekend. You get to enjoy the rest of the games, and you get to find out who you're going to play. And that's exactly the situation that the 49ers are in now. This is how it's going to work. Tomorrow, the New York Giants and the Minnesota Vikings play. If the Vikings win, it's simple. The Vikings will come here to Levi Stadium, and they'll play the 49ers next Saturday, so a week from today. But if the Giants win, and I think I've picked the Giants to beat the Vikings, I think they're actually better than the Vikings, who are the most overrated 13-win team that we've ever seen. The first 13-win team with a negative point differential, mind you. So if the Giants beat the Vikings, the 49ers won't know their opponent yet, because the 49ers' opponent will be the winner of Tampa Bay against Dallas, Brady against Prescott on Monday Night Football. And Tampa Bay against Dallas, because that's happening on Monday night, that team wouldn't have to play until the following Sunday. So the 49ers wouldn't play until Sunday. So this all depends on who wins tomorrow, right? Giants or Vikings. But anyway, the 49ers have taken care of their business. When you look at this from the big picture, 41-23 over the Seattle Seahawks. It was the blowout that I think most of us expected, right? Maybe some of the talking heads on national TV didn't expect it. I don't know why not. The 49ers were clearly very superior to Seattle through 2 games in the regular season. They were clearly very superior to Seattle again in this one, the third matchup. I don't think it's that hard to beat a team 3 times if you're way better than that team. And the 49ers are way better than the Seattle Seahawks. Now, was it a little bit dicey? Was Nick Bosa nervous at halftime? Yes. But it was mainly because the 49ers kind of shot themselves in the foot in the first half. Brock Purdy was missing some throws. The 49ers schematically got thrown off by Seattle. The 2 inside linebackers were trying to cut off those inside crossing passes and the slant patterns that Brock Purdy likes to throw. So Purdy was bailing the pocket. The offense was a little bit disjointed in the first half. And of course, the Jimmy Ward penalty, which set up the field goal to put Seattle ahead 56 yards at the end of the first half. I mean, all of that created a bad vibe for the 49ers entering the locker room, and they were down entering the locker room 17-16. But then they just ripped off one hell of a second half. From 17-16, Seattle stayed stuck on 17 until the 49ers had 41 points. So 41 minus 16, it's going to be 26. 49ers went on a 26-0 run in this game, which should be reminiscent of what we saw in week 2. 49ers Seahawks on this field. The 49ers would have won that game 30-0 if not for the blocked field goal that turned into a touchdown the other way. It was 27-7. But basically, Seahawks are a team that had a below average defense. The offense was above average, but struggling. They did a little bit better today. We'll talk about that in more detail. But that's just not going to cut it against the 49ers team that has now won 11 straight. And the 49ers have the number 1 offense and the number 1 defense over those 11 straight victories. It's been nearly 3 months since the 49ers lost. That was October 23rd on this field right behind me against Kansas City. 49ers, it's what, the 16th today, January 16th? So I think I'm right on the date. I think it's the 16th. Tell me if I'm wrong. But that means that the next time the 49ers take the field might be more than 3 months after they last lost. So that's something. This team has not lost in nearly a quarter of a year. That's how well the 49ers are playing right now. So anyway, let's start here. Let's go good, the bad, maybe some of the ugly, but they certainly made up for the ugly with that second half surge. Brock Purdy 18 of 30, 332 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. The no interceptions is key. I mean, even when he was a little bit disjointed, being flushed out of the pocket in the first half, he never threw anything overly dangerous. There's a couple throws that got away from Purdy in the first half, I think, due to the wet weather. He even said that first throw, downfield, you had Deebo Samuel crossing wide open on the intermediate, Brandon Ayuk wide open on the deep pattern. Purdy threw it in between both of them. I'm not sure who he was intending it for, but it was in the spot where it shouldn't have been because both of those guys were wide open and he missed both of them. But he said that it was wet early on and it dried up as the game went along. They expected late rain. That didn't happen in this game. So instead, it was the early rain that proved to be the issue, and Purdy slipped up a bit in the first half. But in the second half, Brock Purdy was 9 of 11 for 16.8 yards per attempt. I talked about this before the game. Seattle was the second worst YAC defense, yards after the catch defense in the NFL, behind only the team that the 49ers dominated here last week, Arizona. And the 49ers had racked up big-time yards after the catch against Seattle in week 2 and also in week 15. Week 15 was George Kittle running roughshod over the Seattle Seahawks, and week 2 was that was a little bit of everybody running roughshod over them. That was when Jimmy Garoppolo came in for Trey Lance. Either way, the 49ers dominated the Seahawks offensively, dominated that Seahawks defense, and took advantage of the fact that they could not tackle after the catch. They were so bad after the catch. That happened again in this game. Brock Purdy, a lot of his 332 yards were after the catch, especially since Deebo Samuel had 6 receptions for 133 yards. And Deebo, I mean, we talk about one of the turning points being when Jonathan Abram, ex-Raider, was pulling his ankle, dirty play, pissed the 49ers off, and they're like, okay, screw these guys. We're just going to go into overdrive and kick their ass. And that's what they did. But, you know, even before that point, Deebo Samuel was bullying people after the catch. And then it came to his long, the 74-yarder that truly put the game away, and Seattle didn't want to tackle him. They wanted no business of tackling Deebo Samuel. He catches a short pass, runs up the sideline, and all these Seattle guys are making business decisions, creative angles, whatever you want to call it. They basically wanted to go golfing next week. They didn't want to stay in the playoffs. So like, I'd rather, just let's wave the white flag on this game. Let's not take any more bruises or injuries from Deebo Samuel. So the 49ers beat the Seahawks into submission. And, nothing will illustrate that better than Deebo Samuel's stat line, 22.2 yards per catch. Brandon Ayuk, 24.3 yards per catch. Juwan Jennings, 20.5 yards per catch. George Kittle, 18.5 yards per catch. I mean, this is insane. The 49ers averaged 18.4 yards per reception today. There were wide open spaces. They exposed Seattle's defense for the mediocre to bad unit that it is. And Brock Purdy, despite being a little bit off, you could call it nerves, you could call it wet weather. You could also credit Seattle for taking away some of those crossers in the first half. He adjusted in the second half, and so did Shanahan. The 49ers started going into the flat much more often. And as the 49ers did go to the flat, Seattle's defense was just stretched thin, right? So the adjustment that needed to happen was the 49ers needed to use the perimeter more, just like Brock Purdy did it on the first touchdown, which was a beautiful adjustment. I mean, he wanted to go inside receiver. Seahawks linebackers had it covered up. Purdy uses his quickness within the pocket to kind of juke around a little bit, step up, and he finds Christian McCaffrey. What does he find him? On the outside, right? Finds him in the flat on the outside. So the perimeters were there against the Seahawks today. They hit Brandon Ayuk countless times on that crosser about 20 yards downfield. Seattle couldn't cover it. And guess what? Other NFC teams are going to be saying the same thing. They can't cover all of the 49ers' weapons. All Purdy has to do is play within structure and be the point guard. And he was trying to do a little too much in the first half because Seattle was forcing him out of structure, right? Middle of the field taken away, Purdy would spin away, and Purdy is a lot better when he's rolling to his right, because if he's rolling to his right, he could just get that throw off. But if Purdy is rolling to his left, he's got to cock the body back into throwing position, and then he throws, and it's probably just going to be a throwaway because it's really hard to reacquire the target. But once Purdy started playing within structure because of the schematic adjustments that Kyle Shanahan made to the perimeter, then his off-schedule plays weren't panic plays. Right? He had a couple sensational off-schedule plays, including the touchdown to Elijah Mitchell. And that one, guess what? He was throwing to his right. He rolled to his left first, but then he threw to his right. And then he had the one to Brandon Ayuk that Ayuk unfortunately dropped. But that, I call it a Mahomesian play. That was an insane throw from Brock Purdy after a lot of scampering around in the backfield. So that was really, really good stuff from the 49ers rookie quarterback, who Trent Williams said today, after Purdy made the team, the 53-man roster, back in, when was it? Late August, early September. When that happened, then Trent Williams walked up to Brock Purdy and said, hey, I hope that you realize how big of a deal it is for Mr. Irrelevant, pick number 262, final pick of the NFL draft, to make this 53-man roster, this loaded of a team. Just imagine if you're Brock Purdy, 22 years old, just made the team, obviously on a high from that, but you hear from the greatest offensive lineman to ever play the game, Trent Williams. You hear something like that. What a confidence boost. And that was when Purdy was still third on the depth chart. Trey Lance was still healthy. Jimmy Garoppolo had re-signed with the team. There wasn't that high of a chance that we'd see Brock Purdy this year at that point, right? But that's the kind of locker room the 49ers have, elevating other players, teammates helping elevate teammates. And Trent Williams' delivery of confidence to Brock Purdy, I think, is significant. Back then, I think it translated to right now. Anyway, Purdy delivered that opening touchdown pass to Christian McCaffrey. And then, I talked about good, bad, and ugly. Why don't we talk about the bad? The bad started happening right after that. 49ers up 10-0. Kenneth Walker, K9, Seahawks running back, 7-yard touchdown run. 49ers were settling for field goals with how disjointed their offense was earlier. I talked about all that with Purdy. So Gold kicked the field goal, 13-7. And then DK Metcalf beat Charvarius Ward down the sideline, and Seattle took a 14-13 lead. And even though the 49ers came back with a field goal, that's when Jimmy Ward had his really bad penalty. You just got to let Geno Smith run. You can't have that penalty. So the 56-yard field goal from Myers gave Seattle the lead at halftime. So the bad happened in the first half, where Seattle racked up most of their rushing yards, 25 carries, 104 yards for the Seattle Seahawks. And the way that Nick Bosa explained it is that Kenneth Walker was more patient than the 49ers had remembered him. Seattle, got to give him credit. They came in with a really good game plan today. Kenneth Walker was really patient, and because of that, he found some cutback lanes. They actually changed up on tape, from the tape, they changed up the way that they ran, the way that they attacked. So Dre Greenlaw got beat to the edge for a touchdown in the first half. He was still kicking himself in the locker room after the game. He's like, oh man, they got me. Like they deked the 49ers a bit in the first half. So Seattle threw the kitchen sink at the 49ers as expected. Maybe not with trick plays, but they definitely broke tendency. And by breaking tendency, the 49ers, the Seahawks made sure to put the 49ers on their heels defensively. Not many teams rushed for 100 yards against the 49ers, but the Seahawks did today, and a lot of that came in the first half, 25 for 104. I mean, there was a period in the first half where Geno Smith was 9 of 10. So Geno Smith was running play action off of the strong running game. He was getting third and manageable, and then obviously they were just feasting with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, both of whom had nice games. Lockett not as much, 6 catches, 39 yards, but Metcalf was a monster today, 10 for 136. But I'll tell you what, that might be bad. The 49ers defense might have struggled a bit there. But in the big picture, I thought that this was an extremely encouraging performance from the 49ers defense, because Deommodore Lenoir had a good game. You talk about the weakness of the 49ers defense, right? People always said it was Deommodore Lenoir. Well, Lenoir intercepted Geno Smith to really seal the game there at the end, when he blanketed Tyler Lockett, who's one of the best slot receivers in the game. One of the best wideouts in the game, right? Tyler Lockett is a good wideout. That was excellent coverage from Deommodore Lenoir. So when you're talking about the weak link playing as technically well as Deommodore Lenoir did today, that's a huge arrow up for the 49ers in the rest of the playoffs. It was Charvarius Ward who struggled the most today. But remember that Charvarius Ward locked down DK Metcalf in Week 15. Everybody is paid out on that field. DK just got paid a lot of money. He has the same agent as Deebo Samuel. And Charvarius Ward is also coming off a fresh contract. It is not surprising to me to see Charvarius Ward dominate DK Metcalf in Week 15 and then see DK Metcalf take that personally and come back with 10 catches for 136 yards, including a deep 50-yard TD in the wild card playoffs. It's going to go back and forth. Fans freak out when something goes wrong, but the 49ers, even throughout their dominant 11-game win streak, just simply not every single play is going to go in your favor. People need to grow up a little bit with the criticism and with the perspective here. Not every single play is going to go in your favor. And since that is the case, you have to roll with the punches. And that's what the 49ers did. So yeah, Metcalf had a big game. Yeah, that hurt in the first half. Yeah, the 49ers went to the locker room down. But I think in the big picture, the 49ers should be happy that Deommodore Lenoir played so well, got an interception. His confidence is probably as high as it's ever been right now. And they can realize with perspective that Charvarius Ward's going to be okay. Charvarius Ward already shut down DK Metcalf in Week 15, struggled a bit more today, missed one of those tackles. He's only missed 2 tackles in the whole year now, one in the regular season, one there. I don't believe that Charvarius Ward's going to have any lingering issues moving forward. And that's really good news for the 49ers. So that was the bad, but they overcame it in the second half. They just went on an absolute tear in the second half. And you know where it started. One of the biggest plays of the game, maybe the biggest play of the game. It was 23-17. Seahawks are driving. 12-play drive. They get down to the 49ers 19-yard line. It's 3rd and 14. At that point, either they pick up the 3rd and 14, unlikely, or they kick a field goal, likely, and they cut it to 3, and people are still nervous. Nick Bosa said he was nervous in the locker room, right? But it's Charles Omenihu. And the 49ers, they call the lightning package. It's their NASCAR package, 4 defensive ends. You put them in on 3rd and long, pass rush specialty. Charles Omenihu comes in over Gabe Jackson, the right guard. And Omenihu's got a wingspan. 86-inch wingspan, 36-inch arms, or 85.5 inches, I think, with the wingspan, 36-inch arms. And Bosa beats Charles Cross, the left tackle. Nick Bosa roars around the edge, beats Charles Cross, so Geno Smith has to step up in the pocket. And Omenihu, who you use that athleticism to beat the guards in the lightning package, Omenihu's cut weight from 280 to 265 just so he can rip around guards like this, just like Arden Key did last year, right? And Omenihu just flies in there past Gabe Jackson. And he's not quite on trajectory to hit Geno Smith, but Geno Smith is not safe from Charles Omenihu because Charles Omenihu has the 85.5-inch wingspan. And it was a tremendously athletic play. He flies in there, reaches out with the long arms, grabs the ball, rips it out, fumble on the ground. Nick Bosa recovers. From that point on, this was game over. 49ers scored a touchdown before that and after that. It was a deluge, right? It was a flood. Speaking of the wet weather back there, the 49ers delivered a flood of points to just swamp out the Seahawks in this game. So Charles Omenihu, 2 sacks, had one later on, missed the sack right before. It could have been 3, but had 2 sacks. That is a career high. Remember, he had 1.5 last year in the wild card game. Tyron Smith. He overpowered Tyron Smith, perennial Pro Bowler of the Cowboys. So Charles Omenihu deserves a lot of props. He showed up, bought into the system. A year and a half later, after being traded from Houston, he might be that bookend to Nick Bosa that the 49ers could really use moving forward to the playoffs. So you got a Omenihu breakout game. Lenoir, I thought was a breakout game. I thought Lenoir was really good, really technically sound today. Nick Bosa, awesome as always, beating Charles Cross there on the left side. This 49ers defense is legit. Again, I'll say it again. The pass rush is not as good as the 2019 pass rush. They're not totally overpowering like that 2019 pass rush, but the 49ers, if they can get the right plays at the right time, and Charles Omenihu is starting to show that he can do that, they still need Ebukam to do a little bit something there. Drake Jackson might come back against a more pass-heavy opponent. He was inactive today because they are expecting some more run game to counter from Seattle in the wet weather. The 49ers just need compliments to Nick Bosa, and when they get that, the linebackers are so good. Greenlaw led the way with 11 tackles today. And the secondary, I think it's underrated. I really do. I think that people say, oh, it's the weakness. But if Deommodore Lenoir plays the way that he did today, I think Charvarius Ward's going to be all right. Big picture is that this was 41-17 before garbage time. It's not easy to beat an NFL team this badly. 49ers finished 7-0 this year against the NFC West. This is the last game against the NFC West because everybody's eliminated except for the 49ers. Mighty, mighty impressive. And I haven't even mentioned Christian McCaffrey yet. He is such a good runner. Listen to this, 15 carries, 119 yards. Christian McCaffrey is at 7.9 yards per carry. And having him and Deebo Samuel on the same team, it just adds another positionless skill position weapon, right? So take this. Deebo Samuel led the 49ers in receiving with 133 yards, yet he got their first handoff of the game. The very first carry of the game was to Deebo Samuel. Whereas Christian McCaffrey was used as a decoy in receiving today to open stuff up for Deebo Samuel, gravitational pull, right? Yet he led the team in rushing with 119 yards. How are you supposed to defend that? If it was just those two, it'd be hard to defend because you don't know who's playing running back and who's playing receiver. But on top of that, you have George Kittle. You have Brandon Ayuk. Kittle, by the way, 2 for 37. Ayuk, 3 for 73. So they had 3 of those crossers, just gobbled up yardage for Brandon Ayuk. Then you have Juszczyk. You have Elijah Mitchell. You have Jawan Jennings had that big dagger catch later on. So, this 49ers team is just superb when it comes to brimming with talent. And it certainly showed today. Thought that was the best half of football the 49ers have played, and they bounced back from a little shakiness in the first half, but it's the playoffs. You expect the Seahawks to throw everything at you in the playoffs, and the 49ers definitely countered very, very appropriately. All right, so final thoughts. 49ers 41, Seahawks 23. Epic win for the 49ers, getting ready for another playoff game here at Levi Stadium. If the Vikings win, it's going to be the Vikings a week from now on Saturday. If the Giants win, it's going to be the winner of the Bucks and the Cowboys on Sunday. So right now, if you're a 49ers fan, you could sit back, enjoy the weekend. It looked like the 49ers got out of this healthy, which is huge as well. They were able to rest a lot of their players late in the game. Special teams was really good too. We had to shout out to Oren Burks, had an awesome special team stop. Tarvarius Moore, really good. Samuel Womack, good today. This was a tour de force for the 49ers. They scored, I believe, on, they scored on 7 of 8 drives in this game. They only punted once. 49ers only punted once. So, despite the fact that the offense was a little discombobulated in the first half, they were still moving in such chunk plays. They were kicking at least field goals. It's going to be hard to beat the 49ers. The Super Bowl hype should be higher than ever right now. Brock Purdy was sensationally efficient in the second half. You would expect the rookie to have some of those jitters, some of that rust, some of the wet weather problems in the first half. He did. He got over it, and the 49ers were still dominant. It's impossible to complain about an 18-point win in the National Football League in the playoffs, and that's what the 49ers did. They have won 11 straight games. The next time they take the field, it will be 3 months since they last lost. We are seeing historic stuff in action, so don't let improper perspective of the first half color what the 49ers are doing, because it's extremely impressive. Purdy started 6 games, right? In 5 of them, the 49ers have scored at least 35 points. Today, they hang 41 on the Seahawks. This is dominant play that we're seeing from the 49ers, and these guys are one of the favorites to win it all this year because of what we're seeing out there. Really, 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 really powerful stuff from the 49ers. All right, everybody, like the video, sub to the channel. My article should be almost up. I'll talk to everybody soon. We're about to record a podcast, and obviously there's going to be more content churning, maybe even more tonight. That'd be fun, right, from the studio. So goodbye now from Levi's Stadium. If you want to take a look at the field, it is right down there. Oh, there it is, the saloon font, the red paint. Levi's looking good after the 49ers beat the Seahawks 41-13. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit the sub button. We'll talk to you all soon.